posting videos here on YouTube for nearly 3.5 years now. In that time, I've moved 4 times, I've built, unbuilt, and rebuilt several coffee setups, and have accumulated way too much gear. My drawers soon overflowed with mugs, tampers, portafilters, and other espresso gadgets, and my drawer bottoms started giving out. As I accumulated bigger and heavier espresso machines, I also started getting concerned about the weight capacity. And that is where phase 1 of this project begins. So I had several problems with my previous home coffee stations that this new one needed to address. 1. I wanted this coffee cart to look good in my living space. I wanted a piece of furniture that wouldn't stick out too much and blend in with the surrounding furniture. In my previous space, I went all out with painting the wall and turning a portion of our living room into essentially a filming set. And while it looked great on camera, it just really didn't fit the vibe of the apartment at all, and it was a constant mess leading into my second problem. It needs to be organized and store all my content creation equipment. So I want all my gear here and available to grab when necessary. And 3, if it can be on wheels, it should be on wheels. This would make it easier to maneuver for photos, videos, changing out the gear, and hey, maybe one day I want to do a little coffee pop-up, I could simply roll this out of my apartment with little effort. And finally, it should fit perfectly in that little area of my living space. With those guidelines now laid out, we move on to phase 2, planning. So I wanted this iteration of my coffee bar to feel more minimalistic in appearance, with more of the gear out of sight where possible. So I took a list of the gear that had to absolutely stay on the top surface. This includes the espresso machine, the knockbox, the 2 grinders, one dedicated to espresso and the other for filter, and the pouring kettle. Everything else can more or less be kept in storage until needed. The next step was to determine how I wanted to lay these items out and to take measurements of the footprint of each item. With these measurements, I'm able to get a rough idea of the minimum size surface area I'd want. I also knew I wanted a mini freezer in this area to keep my beans fresh, and perhaps a plant or 2 to liven up the space. So with the general color palette, size and weight restrictions, storage requirements, and maneuverability requirements all picked out, that led to one natural option: a mobile workbench. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking, that's meant for the garage or workshop and it's going to look ugly. Hear me out, my girlfriend thought the same thing until it arrived, and honestly, it looks a lot better than you'd expect. Now I might be biased here, but I think the white glossy exterior combined with the oak wood butcher block top looks pretty clean and blends with our existing furniture pretty seamlessly. The badge is easily removable and I could just 3D print a new one to replace the Husky logo, and even the drawer handles could be removed to be spray painted white to make it look a little bit less utilitarian if needed. This cart is on wheels, it has a 680 kilo or 1,500 pounds of Freedom Unit weight capacity, perfectly fits the size requirements of the space, has a built-in power socket, and can still be maneuvered wherever I want pretty easily. It's got 9 drawers, with the middle 6 being pretty slim and the bottom 2 being the deepest for larger items, perfect for spare grinders and other bulky equipment. This first drawer will be dedicated to all the most frequently used coffee equipment, with the following 2 dedicated to less used gear and my single dosing tubes. The next few drawers will be dedicated to some camera equipment that fits, as well as any other miscellaneous items. And the last 2 will be dedicated to all the bulky gear that won't really fit elsewhere. So with that all planned out, phase 3 begins. Now, this phase of the project was by far the most time-consuming and surprisingly expensive. Inspired by Scott Yuhan, I wanted to not just organize my drawers, but have everything fit within custom-sized shadow boxes. There was only one problem. I don't know how to use any professional 3D modeling software. So after a little Googling and testing, I used what basic knowledge I had in Tinkercad, which is a free web-based program to essentially use some basic shapes in creating my bins and trays. For the organization phase, I turned to Zach Friedman's Gridfinity system, which is a modular open source system utilizing grids and stackable bins. The next step was to start measuring each of my different coffee gadgets to create rough shapes of each item in Tinkercad, which also brings me to the sponsor of this video, AeroPress. The original AeroPress has been around for nearly 20 years now, and recently, AeroPress has just launched a new lineup of AeroPress products, including a new premium model, the clear version, and the new AeroPress XL, which I'm going to be modeling here in Tinkercad. One of our preferred brewing methods around here has been the AeroPress, and this new XL model actually lets you brew more than a single cup of coffee. with the bigger model also means a larger filter and a larger brewing paddle. For this AeroPress XL module, I wanted it to store both brewing paddles for the original and the new XL sized ones, as well as the XL paper filters. Simple enough to do here as well. Once done, I sent it to the 3D printer and it's a perfect fit. You can pick up the all-new AeroPress XL using discount code CHRIS15 for an exclusive 15% discount at aeropress.com. Once again, thanks to AeroPress for sponsoring this video. Now, this modeling process was basically repeated for all the other components going into the cart. The pitchers were on the bulkier side, so rather than have them in the drawers, I designed these simple hooks with slots for a magnet to stick them to the side of the cart. I did the same with my most frequently used paper filters. With the drawers organized, all that's left to do is add the coffee equipment, organize the cables, and make this cart feel a little more personalized. So this cart ended up as maneuverable as I'd hoped, and it fits the space pretty well. The touch of greenery here and there adds some liveliness to the space, and overall I'm very happy with this new setup. But there's always room for improvement, leading to the last and final phase, reflection. As with all good projects, there's always room for improvement and refinement. In this case, there are two big things I wish I had done differently. First, probably going for a dedicated mini fridge freezer combo rather than just a mini freezer, as it makes it ever so slightly more annoying to run to the kitchen for milk and back. And second, optimizing the 3D printing design and process by A, learning a more robust 3D modeling software so I could take more precise measurements, add things like chamfers to avoid sharp edges, and B, optimizing the design for space and material efficiency. This could mean possibly squeezing objects closer together, rotating or angling objects that would then shrink the amount of grid space needed, or even creating bins that could stack for objects that are thinner. I was able to do this a little bit with the beam tube storage by shrinking what was originally a 4x6 print size to about 3x6 by putting tubes at an angle. But overall, I'm very happy with this new coffee bar cart. It might not be for everyone, but personally, I really like it. I hope you enjoyed this insight into my design process and hope it provides some inspiration for your own coffee setups at home. As always, all products mentioned or not mentioned will be linked in the description down below, as well as the print files for all the different components I designed. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, consider joining as a channel member, and leave a comment as it definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in the next one.